Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Remember Palestine with me, Lauren Booth. As the Israeli occupation of Palestinian land continues into its sixth decade, the indigenous people of the West Bank and Gaza struggle to retain rights to even the most essential resources. I mean, what can be more vital to existence than water? In today's show, we'll be discussing the growing restrictions on Palestinians' rights to their own land's natural water reserves. Here's an overview of what's going on.
Since the 1967 occupation of the West Bank and Gaza, Israel has almost completely controlled the water available to the Palestinian population. Their international discriminatory water policy maintains an unequal allocation of water in favor of Israel and the illegal Israeli settler communities, while denying 3.8 million Palestinians essential access to water. According to various human rights reports, over 90% of the 2.4 billion cubic meters of renewable fresh water in Palestine and Israel is allocated to Israelis, leaving the Palestinian population with just over 10% instead of the required 45% to maintain them. In spite of that, in a water-scarce region, Israeli water policy hinges on finding more water to maintain present consumption levels, regardless of the sustainability of current patterns of water used by Israelis and settlers. Israel's control of Palestinian water resources undermines any possibility for sustainable development and violates Palestinians' human rights to safe, accessible and adequate drinking water.
Well, I'm joined now by Nasim Ahmed from the Palestine Return Centre to discuss water limitations on Palestinian life in more detail. Welcome again to RP.
Thank you.
Well, what most people can't quite grasp is how do you control someone else's water? Why don't the people of the West Bank, for example, just find a well, pump the water out and give it to their villages and cities?
That for an individual family might be possible, but the reality on the ground is that Israel controls the two major water sources in the region, which is from the Jordan Valley and also the mountain aquifers. Israel controls 100% of the water that comes out of Jordan Valley and 80% of the water that comes out of the mountain aquifers, leaving Palestinians with only 20% of the water, their own water, in the West Bank and Gaza. So the situation as a consequence is that Palestinians are not able to irrigate their land. There's chronic shortage of water in the region and also very poor quality of water because of the high demands placed on existing water supplies. So what we have is a situation where Palestinians, 2.5 million in the West Bank, are not able to irrigate their own land, and Israeli settlements who have only 450,000, they're able to own swimming pools, they're able to actually harvest their gardens.
Nasim, let's have a little look at those figures again because they're interesting. 2.5 million Palestinians, you said, in the West Bank. How much do they have on average per day, per person, water-wise? Well,
they have a quarter of what the settlements in the West Bank have.
So a quarter of the settlers, not even those in Israel. This is the illegal settlers have 3 times more.
So the 450,000 settlers in the West Bank have more water between them than the 2.5 million Palestinians in the West Bank. So this is the reason that's come about is because Israel wants to maintain the same standard of living, the demand of water from Israel and within the West Bank settlers, irrespective of what kind of consequence it has for the Palestinians. So even though Palestinians do not have any water to actually grow their crops and irrigate their land, Israel still will not change its policy of taking the water in order to maintain the demand placed on Israeli water supply from these settlements and Israeli industries.
Isn't it almost an overly high expectation to have a swimming pool in somewhere like the West Bank, or 8 swimming pools per settlement, or you know, in a large settlement? Isn't that a wrong expectation?
Of course, if as it was introduced during the Oslo period, where there should have been a joint committee which decided how the water was used within the region, because there should have been a joint water strategy, because the water comes from the same source. If that was the case, you would not have such a criminal use of water, where one group of people can own swimming pools, and next door you have someone who's starving and is not able to harvest his crops. So and that would not have come about.
Just briefly, what's the actual effect then on the crop growing capability of the Palestinian farmers, for example?
Well, In a recent report by the World Bank, they've said that yearly $40 million worth of goods is lost by the Palestinians because they are not able to water their plants. So that's the kind of they're not able to develop their.
That's a catastrophe. It's a financial catastrophe
for a country which is has not emerged, but which will need structures and an economy to actually develop itself. That's a noose around its economic development and its infrastructure.
So thanks once again. We come to the fact that the PA has ownership of nothing, not land, sea, air, and not water. So it's an authority over what?
Nothing.
Thanks very much for joining us. Well, now our own Yusuf Al-Halou has this report on the water problems faced by Palestinians in the Gaza Strip.
Gaza is facing a water crisis. For more than 1.5 million Palestinians living in Gaza, water shortage is affecting every aspect of their life. Experts say it is creating health, agriculture, economic, social, and political instabilities in the region. For the Palestinians in communities separated by boundaries, walls, and checkpoints, there might be no water coming from the tap, and people are forced to purchase bottled water just to meet their daily needs. The Gaza aquifer is the only source of water for Gaza's residents. Reports show 90% of water is not suitable for human consumption due to high levels of nitrate and salinity.
Because there's such limited amounts of water in Gaza that's acceptable for human consumption, mostly this is the shallow coastal aquifer. And this aquifer is being overpumped. So much water is being taken out to supply the needs of Gazans that you have much more intrusion of seawater, and then also you have upwelling of this very, very old water, which also has high salinity and high concentrations of other pollutants.
In the meantime, Israel has installed huge pumping stations all along the border, diverting water before it reaches the aquifer of Gaza. According to international water law, Palestinians should have an equal share. But as Coastal Municipal Water Utility report shows, Israel's water daily consumption per capita is around 320 liters, while the consumption of Palestinians in Gaza is less than 90 liters.
We need to stop relying on the aquifer as the only resource of water and start to think about an unconventional water resource. On top of them, is the sea water desalination, with other solution which I think needs more political stability, because the Palestinians were condemned to consume a little quantities which are available. That's why the Palestinian consumption of water is not more, as an average, not more than 90 liters per capita per day.
Recent studies conducted by Coastal Municipal Water Utility warn that by the year 2015, Gazans will not find healthy water to drink. Currently, large part of the population do not have access to regular clean water. 40% of the population in the coastal densely populated territory receive water twice a week for 6 to 8 hours a day. The prolonged Israeli siege prevents entry to hundreds of items, including essential industrial materials needed to repair the water infrastructure. During the Gaza war, bombs destroyed 3 water wells and much of the water system infrastructure across the besieged coastal strip. Yusuf Al-Halou, reporting from Palestine, Gaza.